stop beating yourself up, like with every bit of parenting, don't beat yourself up. Like, do the best you can. One of a very sage man said, first time I heard it was, the days are long and the years are short.
Welcome to Dadsplaining, a weekly chronicle of all the weirdest, messiest, grossest, and funniest parts of fatherhood, hosted by two first-time dads. I'm Jesse, and Brandon has the week off. He is busy, of course, at home with the kid, with little Noah, so we're going to check in with him in the next episode, but we are going to have some fun today. I am here today with a very special guest, Leslie Smith Grant. She is the author of Rule a Healthy Roost, which is a really cool, packed with information, how-to guide on all things nutrition, what to stock your kitchen with, how to keep your kids fit and active at various ages. It's really helpful. It's really fun. It's a really cool kind of handy-dandy guide for parents, no matter what age your kid is at. And we are going to get into a lot of really cool information about it. Before we dig in, wanted to remind y'all that we do new episodes right now kind of semi-regularly. We're not quite every Monday yet, as Brandon and I adjust to the new normal, which is, different, of course, from the working life in many ways. But you can find us anywhere you get your podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, since we aren't posting regularly right now. That way you can just catch the new episode in your feed. Don't forget to leave us a rating and a review. And you can find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Dadsplaining Podcast, or hit us up on the email at dadsplainingpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, our guest today is Leslie Smith Grant. Leslie, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited about this. So we were connected by an old friend of mine, Emily, who is a college classmate of mine, and the book is being published by How to Conquer, which is a cool publishing local to Atlanta company that does all kinds of really neat how-to guides. And this one is parenting-centric. And since we are a parenting podcast, it's the perfect fit. So, Leslie, I want to introduce you to me, totally, and to our audience as well. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and your family.
Sure. All over the board. I'm from Georgia, from Tucker. I grew up in Tucker, and currently live in Grant Park, downtown Atlanta. I have two chickens who are pretty much grown now. And a few years, longer than I care to think, a while back when they were little, I was frustrated about what to feed them, how to raise healthier kids than I felt like I was raised. Family of origin stuff was, a lot of times, a lot of fast food, what's for dinner? What's the color of the bag? So anyway, when I was looking at, how to feed the kids, I came up with this idea of trying to track what we'd had to eat and then fill in the blanks later. It turned into this, I started pulling in friends who had specialties. There's a great woman called Emily Harrison, who is a nutritionist by trade, and does she's a ballerina as well, so she does for the Atlanta Ballet, and she helped me design a nutrition tracking board. And anyway, long story short, a lot of work later, we came up with a full book, which your friend Emily works for my friend Michelle, and Michelle Newcomb is probably like the most amazing Girl Scout grown up ever. And we just started putting everything kind of into one book so that you could figure out, what to feed, get some basic information on all these things, exercises, recipes, all that. So it is now. We have republished all of the work, updated it in the time of COVID, just wild timing. But anyway, the series How to Conquer is where it came from. So.
That is awesome. So it's a group effort. That's what's really cool about it. It's you're gathering information from people who know what they're talking about. And did you have any kind of background in nutrition? Like, is this something you studied, or is this just a lot of personal research of your own?
Yeah, no, well, again, I went out and found people who knew what they were doing. So Emily is a nutritionist, so got her on board. It's, more of a pulling people in who know what they're doing. So, and my, again, basic knowledge of nutrition was nothing. So it was, trying to figure out and then make it simple enough for me to remember every day. And I have attention span issues. So yeah, so it was, no, No
That's
background.
awesome.
Know
So
where to find things. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But that's what I kind of like about it is that it's not written sort of in expertise language. It's definitely just written for like the everyday parent to break down and understand. And there's a lot of information in there. So tell me, sort of at a glance in general, what all does this book cover?
Yep. So basically, if you kind of never stepped into a kitchen before, it's a great place to start. If you are a frustrated parent who, needs like a little bit of basics on all of it about how to, like just the things to keep in mind about raising healthy kids is there. We did start out with sort of like, pantry tips, like how to stock your kitchen. What are some like basic food health concerns to consider? There's shopping tips about how to go to the grocery store with your kids. There's some amazing recipes in here that are simple enough for most people to make and, basic enough that kids will eat them. Those are from Sherry Davis, who's this amazing chef in town. And then we had like exercises from our PE coach, Randy Brookins at the time. And also there's a piece called Drama Size, which are these just fun things to do with your kids, like, little games to play with them and such. So it really covers the gamut of, like everything you're going to deal with your kid.
That's awesome. I like the drama size section because it sort of incorporates imagination into it and kind of encouraging your kids to picture things. And what's funny is Brandon and our kids are both toddlers. My kid's about 2.5. His is had just turned 2 years old. And it's interesting because your book it covers a lot of different age groups. And I guess maybe one question, it's a little selfish, but especially for me, because my kid, it's a struggle to get him to eat really anything except for his core little favorites, which is fruit in the morning. He loves bananas and things like that. And at dinner time, he'll eat some meat and he'll eat maybe green beans if they're cut a specific way. But anything else, it's like poison to him. So I guess one question is at that toddler stage, what is, and maybe this is covered in the book, what is a good way to kind of make sure that kid is getting the nutrients that they need, especially if they're a picky eater?
Yeah, that one, of course, is very tough. So I started chicken feed. My son, who is now 16, was 3, and my daughter was 7. She's now 20. So it was a while back, but they had both sort of gotten out of that toddler stage. But there was a lot of people that were working on it that did have kids in that age. There's actually a fun little recipe in here for chicken apple bites, and a lot of tips about like how to talk to kids about food. So the more they're hearing, the more terminology they're hearing. There's the great section in the nutrition piece that actually, just has these nice list of all the foods that are in those food groups. So I think, as you can talk to your kids about it so they become familiar with things. You can, rename foods and, like, would you like to eat a tree today? A little piece of broccoli. And just toothpick chicken was one another guy had, just sticking toothpicks in a little piece of chicken. Would you like some toothpick chicken? And just, trying to make it a little bit fun. My son had, it's probably come back to haunt us now, but it was always like, you can't eat that. Don't you touch that. Like, like the negative reinforcement piece with it.
There you go.
Yeah. And so now.
Reverse psychology.
Yeah, again, coming back to haunt us now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think making it, as simple as possible, if your kids will eat foods that touch or don't. And at the end of the day, try to incorporate, a couple of the food groups. The more fruit and veggies you can get in them, the better. If it's all fruit, it's fine. The more, like if you're, want to give them frozen veggies, frozen corn, a lot of kids like that, frozen peas. But the more that you can sort of get a variety in them, the better. And if you can't, like if the only thing they're eating for 4 months is mac and cheese and, chicken nuggets, then, they're going to change. They will evolve. They will evolve.
That's so true, and it's something that it's hard for parents to remember in the moment because they change so frequently and so quickly and so randomly. I mean, my kid's in a phase where he won't even eat macaroni and cheese. I'm like, it's delicious, man, and it's not necessarily like a good food for you.
Yeah.
But it's picky. But that's good to remember is that it doesn't last forever.
I mean, he'll eat just macaroni, like if he likes the shapes or something, and just think about textures and the visual piece of it. I always tell him, like, don't eat with your eyes, your eyes don't taste anything, but your mouth does. So like try to get a taste of it in. But just, as your time permits, the more you can do. And then I think one of the things that is really frustrating is, like we get anxious and we get worked up about it, and like that sort of level of anxiety translating to them, and then they shut down. So I think trying to keep it as simple as possible, and really believing they will eat if they're hungry, they're if they go to bed hungry and they wake up in the middle of the night, unfortunate, but they'll eat at some point.
That's
And there
awesome.
are exceptions to all of these things, of course.
Oh yeah, definitely. Every kid's different. That's something that we talk about a lot, and that's also I like that. That's important to remember is that kids feed off of our emotions.
Yeah.
So if you're expressing negativity, they're going to absorb some of that and throw it back at you. Especially at a time like this when people are just more anxious than normal in general because of the times we live in. So that's a really cool tip. I like that. Now,
not just for kids. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk also about, you've got a section dedicated to the kitchen that I thought was really cool. That it's not just about the food that you put in front of them, but what are you doing, how do you organize your kitchen, your pantry? What are you doing to get your kid involved in the kitchen process? So at a glance, how can the way that you sort of stock, organize, and run your kitchen play a role in how your kid eats and how they get their nutrients?
Yeah. I mean, just go through the kitchen as a toddler and, like what toddler's eye view, what can they see? What can you give them independence to choose? So if you have, things that you want them to eat, make sure that those are front and center at their eye level, packaged individually, in the refrigerator, in the pantry as well. Like if they're little, just make up little snack things and put them all at their level so they feel free and independent and, empowered to go grab those things. And I think too, one of the things that I know my mother-in-law had this pantry that was like 3 feet deep and 4 feet wide. And it was just like, there's no way that you'll ever find all this stuff. And they just from a sanity standpoint, making sure that you're, like you can see what you have. You always have a little bit of fruit and vegetables and, ways to, just learn to make some really basic things. Beans and rice, and then add a little something to it. Everybody's great. Roasted vegetables are some of the best things ever. So making sure that you have, like some potatoes, and I love parsnips, but, just like basic things that you have a few things you can go to.
Awesome. And speaking of go-to, this is important, especially, and I don't like to stereotype dads because there are some rock star dads out there. But a lot of times, just the way that kind of society expects us to be, we don't try as hard as we should sometimes to learn to be master chefs. So especially in a time like this when you can't go out really the way that you might have before, and you can't shop as frequently as you did, before, what would you say are some nice sort of quick and easy go-tos that are still nutritious, and that, your kid will kind of get everything they need out of, but, doesn't require a kitchen that's stocked the way that it was before quarantine?
Yeah, I mean, pantry stable, shelf stable item, peanut butter or any kind of a nut butter if they're able to do that. Those are great because they, last forever on the shelf until you open them, put them in the fridge. Like always, or trying to go, when you go to the store, try to get apples. Apples will last a long time. They're not going to go bad in the first few days. Buy a bunch of bananas and, buy them as green as you can, buy a couple, buy some that are really, really green and some that you can eat now. And just trying to think about it in terms of longevity, what would last for a week. Cheese, of course, there's not a whole lot of kids who don't like cheese.
That's true.
So string cheeses are great. They last a long time. And just, again, beans and rice and pastas. Those are, it seems like every time I go to the grocery store, those aisles are clear right now. But if you can get your hand on beans and rice, do that. So,
that's,
inexpensive. So inexpensive.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Apples are my son's current obsession right now. And I think it started because we were watching Muppet Treasure Island and the little boy in that movie was eating an apple because he wouldn't touch apples for so long. And then one day he just looked at our fruit basket and went, apple, and wanted an apple. And now he eats one every morning. So I think that's really good. Yeah, and getting the bananas, like you said, as green as possible, especially because, I mean, the banana aisle is so often empty these days. I remember when they first started making announcements about sheltering in place here in Georgia, I went shopping for bananas. I went to 5 different grocery stores,
Oh
and
wow.
none of them had bananas.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good staple. I love that, and of course, that's my son's favorite fruit right now, next to apples. So I love all of that. And the book moves from recipes and then into sort of a fitness category, talking about activities. I loved those, reading through them. Now, my son at 2 years old, he was too young for a lot of them, but I'll tell you, we did try I think it was called the chopsticks
Yeah.
exercise, where you lie on the ground, throw your legs in the air, and kind of make them move like you're picking up chopsticks. And he actually was able to do it. I had to help him out a little bit
Oh,
at
cute.
first, but it was fun. He liked it. He laughed, and it's a little bit of an exercise at the same time. So I'm experimenting to see like what else can he do? Can he do sit-ups? Can he do bicycle kicks? And that's really fun. But what is in there in that section? Tell me a little bit about the kind of tips that parents can find in there.
Sure. So again, these came from our PE teacher at the time, and there were things that he was using with the elementary school students at the time. A lot of them were, but then we tried to incorporate a little bit of making sure that they could be done in your house, that they were kitchen kind of fun or friendly. There's one where and it's kind of for you're a little younger. For those of us that remember Monty Python, the Ministry of Silly Walks, like just loading
Oh, I
your.
remember Monty Python. I love Monty Python. The Stilly Walks thing, that's right up my alley.
There you go. So load the kid up with something, a little heavier in their hands with the grocery bags or something, and have them do lunges, like see how silly they can walk all the way through the house. So they're, getting, lift the grocery bags while they're going. If you're going to be sitting and looking at the TV or something, doing little arm pushes on the couch, put your feet on the ground and do little arm pushes on the couch. And just, again, trying to be very playful about the whole thing. And, just incorporating something active and moving, everywhere you can. So, yeah.
That's cool. It's a nice little transition from sort of unstructured playtime, which of course is important, but kind of adding in a little organization to it and a little regiment. I like that a lot. That is kind of cool. And there's not just activities and exercise in there, but like we said at the beginning, you've got a whole section called drama size, which is a little more imaginative. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this one, just one of my favorite people and former neighbors. They've moved out to Oregon now. But Amy Handler, she was a theater or teacher. She worked for the Alliance and stuff. And she just, making up these crazy tongue twisters. And just like, again, imagination games, like everybody pretend like you're a robot, and like how do you eat as a robot. And so again, trying to take and put an overlay of some kind of fun connectivity around eating, so that maybe you're taking the attention off, and you remember, here comes the car up in the garage, like a whole new twist on that kind of thing. So again, really trying to get their brain working a little bit, making it fun and and happy, and taking the stress down a little bit. So
That's really cool. And it's kind of, especially at the young age that my kid and that Brandon's kid is at, sometimes it's hard to remember that they do pick up on more than you might think,
ooh, yeah,
and in terms of communication, things they understand.
yeah.
So yeah, definitely. It's a cool little thread kind of throughout the book, to try little things that, I mean, because sometimes we get stuck in the mindset of when they were a newborn and they didn't really respond to much of anything because they didn't speak English at the time. So yeah, the book I think really encourages you to kind of think outside the box, which some of the things are very practical and common sense, but sometimes common sense is hard to remember to use when you're a stressed out, tired parent. So there's a lot of fun reminders, a lot of ideas that I would not have thought of otherwise, which I just love. Now, what is the one, if you could narrow it down to one, the one big takeaway, the key piece of advice that you would want to give to a parent who is maybe a little late getting into the nutrition game for their kids or hasn't really thought of it yet?
Just, stop beating yourself up. Like with every bit of parenting, don't beat yourself up. Like do the best you can. Again, just figure out ways to relax yourself, and they are with everything, like with potty training with, like they're not going to wear pull-ups forever. Just remember that, right? Sucking their thumb or whatever, they're not going to suck their thumb in college. Like just this too shall pass, right? So everything, just make sure that you are being calmed down, try to reframe it. It's not the end of the world. Just I wish we had all remembered that, it's difficult to do in the moment. As one of a very sage man said, first time I heard it was, the days are long and the years are short. Trying to get through, and if I could go back and have my 3-year-olds again, along with the ones that currently 20 and 16-year-old, but I would love to have those little 3-year-olds again. So whatever you can do to just really appreciate the time and that cute little baby stage. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's right up our alley here on this podcast. And that's actually, that quote is something that we have said before. The days are long, but the years are short. And that's so true. I mean, even at 2 years old, where my kid is now, I'm already figuring that out, that like, where is the time going?
Yeah.
That didn't happen to me 5 years ago. So
pick them up and, hold them for hours. And it's all, it's also amazing. And again, just making sure that you're having fun with it and relaxed. So.
That's great. And that's a great general piece of advice, not just on the nutrition side, but just in everything. Now, I'll end with one question that we ask all of our guests, and it's sort of a choose your own adventure, either way you want to go with it. So what is either the best piece of advice that you got, parenting related, since you've been a parent, or what is something that when you first started out in the parenting game, what is something you wish that someone had told you? Yeah, it's a stumper.
Yeah. I got it late in my parent tenure, respectively. But life's not fair, and aren't we lucky?
Wow.
And, it just, it's something kids say all the time, because they're seeing things from their tiny little lens. It's like, yes, that is not fair. So-and-so got this and you did not. But, and it, it's one of those things that no kid wants to hear. But just as I think as an adult and looking back on it, we're all so fortunate for the most part, 4 years ago, at least, living in America, having the ability to go to a grocery store that, yes, it stinks that they don't have, my favorite blah, blah, or, they're out of bananas, whatever it is, but still we have so much in this country, so much in our communities, and just trying to, build in that graciousness and that gratefulness is important.
That is so awesome and so important to remember. And I think that makes it a perfect place to wrap up. Leslie, I want to thank you again for coming on Dadsplaining. Tell us, where can we find this book?
Yep. So again, How to Conquer. And I love this. Michelle did it as a positive instead of for dummies. It's a positive, how to get your arms around something. But how, the number 2, and conquer.com, I believe. And it'll be up soon. So it's you can pre-order it, I think, but it'll be out soon. So.
Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, folks, you heard that. Howtoconquer.com, and that is 2, the number 2. Be sure to check it out. Leslie, so is this the only book you've ever written? or do you have plans to do some more in the future?
Well, no, I have a couple other side gigs that I'm doing right now that are keeping me a little busy. I'm on the Atlanta School Board and work part-time at Emory. So the former edition of this was called the Chicken Feed Primer. It was a company I had a long time ago. That is, who knows? Who knows where things will end up? But I am just honored to be here. I appreciate you guys and appreciate you having us on. And I would if Michelle tells me to do something else, I'll do it. So
awesome. Cool. Well, we appreciate you. We appreciate you sharing this collection of knowledge with us. Once again, folks, conquer.com. The name of the book is Rule a Healthy Roost. And that is where we're going to wrap things up for today. Thank you guys so much for joining us week after week. Once again, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search Dadsplaining Podcast. We're the only dadsplaining out there right now. Or you can shoot us an email at dadsplainingpodcast@gmail.com. If you've got questions, if there are things that you're nervous about or excited about and want to share, we respond to messages no matter where you want to find us. If you want to come on the show and tell your story, your parenting story, we want to help you do that. We're always looking for stories to share. So check us out. Be sure to subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting platform. And if you would, pretty please don't forget to leave us a rating and a review, especially on iTunes/Apple Podcasts. I'm not an iPhone guy, so I don't really know what the correct nomenclature is these days. But anyway, that's it for this week. Next week, or in the next episode, whenever we record it, we will try to have a very special guest. She is a physician's assistant anesthetist, an anesthesia person working here in the Atlanta area in the COVID-19 ICU units. She's got a very powerful story to tell, and we want to talk to her about parenting in the age of COVID and what it is like, especially when you are a healthcare hero, a first responder. So cross your fingers that we'll make that happen for y'all. And either way, we can't wait to join you guys next time. Until then, I am Jesse, and I'm going to end this show, Leslie, with a little dad joke for you. Don't be afraid to not laugh if it's dumb. But where does a dad keep his dad jokes? In his dad-a-base. A base. That's an appropriate reaction because it doesn't deserve a laugh. But thank you for not vomiting at that. Anyway, thanks for joining us, y'all, and we will see you next time. The advice and opinions expressed on Dadsplaining are solely those of its hosts and guests and should not be substituted for the advice of professionals. If you have a serious concern about the health or development of your child, please consult with your pediatrician. If you're experiencing an emergency, please call 911. Don't listen to us. We're really just good for dad jokes. If you're enjoying Dadsplaining, you might enjoy this other podcast from our friends here at WSB Radio.
Hello, friends. This is Jared Yamamoto from the Power Pod, and we are a weekly recap show where we cover the current events of the week. And of course, during these times, COVID-19 is on everybody's mind. We will cover the good, the bad, and the ugly regarding this crisis. We will be serious with the coronavirus, but we will also find ways to have fun with it as well. So be sure to check us out Saturdays from 11 to noon and Sunday mornings from 9 to 11 on 98.7 FM and AM 1340 WGAU, or grab the Power Pod podcast on any of your favorite podcast providers or your favorite smart speaker.